my man. I definitely appreciate you taking the time to chop it up. And of course, first and foremost, let's just dive into it. Where and when did you learn most of your real estate knowledge?
Hey, you know what? For me, it was something that my grandfather instilled in me when I was younger. Grandpa was always telling me that if I ever came into money, being in New York City, invest in parking lots, invest in real estate, and lastly, he said, I need to invest in funeral homes because he basically said, people always need a place to park in New York. He said that real estate people always need a place to live, and he said basically people die every day, man. It's money, that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I personally, I always try to make sure that I invest in things that I know I use personally. I know just outside of real estate, just in stocks alone, I invest in like Nestle because I love Poland Spring Water.
Mm-hmm.
I like Dove soap, so I invested in Unilever. Everyone buys Jordans, so I of course have Nike
Of
stock,
course.
and I also I have stock in waste management
Yeah.
because unfortunately it's one thing we're always going to produce waste.
For me,
So I made sure that
for me, I
yeah.
always wanted to go, based off of being brought up and born and raised in New York City. Um, from my childhood, we never owned. I never went to a family member's home and they actually owned a home. I ended up going to, places where we was renting and none of those was home. It was always apartment buildings, complex and different stuff like that. So for me, it was like as a kid, we always talked about the big house with the white picket fence and, two kids and a dog and so on. And what I asked is, when did that dream stop? When did that dream die? So I went into college and so on with full intentions on buying my mom and dad a house, of full intentions on having something to pass down to my children. So when my grandfather instilled all those things in me early, I was just like, yeah, like this is what it is. Think back in the day when we talk about, it was a song, Papa was a Rolling Stone. And when he died, how'd it go? All he left us was alone. Was that alone? Was that he left us alone? It was, I used to break that stuff down when I was young. I'd be like, man, so hold up. Because usually when people pass away, now we end up owing bills and everything else and so on. How are we going to switch the narrative and so on and start thinking about not just about now, but our legacies?
Would you have liked to have known more about real estate prior to going into the league or during your pro days?
Um, I don't think I would have liked to because I think I knew enough. But the problem is I didn't feel I had the proper guidance. I didn't feel that I had I didn't feel I had experience. Y- So it's kind of like turning pro or going playing college ball, but not playing pee wee or not playing high school ball or so on. It's just once you become a draft pick or so on, like I was, or once you become a first rounder and so on, now you got X amount of dollars, but you're still a rookie, you're still inexperienced, you're still going into a market that was cornered by others and everything else. And now I'm going into bidding wars and different situations and so on with this newfound money that I had. So it wasn't really about what my knowledge was. It's kind of like right now, like you probably know everything about sports, basketball, football, and everything else and so on. But that doesn't mean that you might be a great referee. That doesn't mean that you're going to be great at the game. So it wasn't really about, going into this, going into the real estate, section and not having, it was just lack of experience for me. It was just, wow, I'm out here and what am I doing? And no, there's no one there, especially when you have money and you're young. There's no one there saying, hey, you're doing it wrong. Hey, you're doing this right here, fix this and everything else. There's not a lot of people that you can trust to pull you to the side. Because are they pulling you to the side because they want to take advantage of you, take your money or so on, or are they pulling you to the side because they genuinely care? So my thing was more
No,
experience.
yeah, that's definitely, why I know personally I'm trying to do a lot more in regards to mentorship, mentoring players, speaking to as many as possible, and even, working with players who have expressed possibly getting their real estate license, either in the off season or after, their playing days, to provide them that, knowledge that you said that some people may not have. So that's the way they can feel more comfortable in regards to jumping into the real estate industry at some point. But piggybacking off what you had just said, being such a high draft pick, is there something about money that you know now that you wish you would have known when you were drafted?
Man, right off the back, uh, I think in terms of it's easy to pick tons of things, but obviously the fear. If I go back to draft, was the fear was always. I think at the time we just had Wesley Snipes with the whole tax thing and different so on. So now it becomes more of just the knowledge that we have on like for example LLCs. LLCs isn't new. So it starts like you start thinking about imagine starting an LLC when you're in college now before the NIL situation and different stuff. Imagine the benefits and like you said when we was discussing stuff earlier, just building business credit and doing certain things like that, understanding write-offs, understanding why you keep your receipts for certain things, going to the clubs and going to hang out, but really having like true books to say what was the business meal, what was the mileage for me waking up driving to work every day, and oh, I'm getting this suit, how can I write it off, and just different things. So I just think in terms of the knowledge that I have now as a 43-year-old man, that's totally different compared to me being 21, 22 in the NFL with X amount of dollars. And as I said earlier, you can do all the reading that you want to. Like just last year, I looked at opportunities and I was like, man, how did I, put out this amount of money in terms of taxes when I could have did this, when I could have invested here, and it's, and that happened last year, but because it happened, it didn't happen this year. Because you just continue to learn, you continue to grow. That's what the thing about life is. As long as you continue to learn each day, continue to grow, it's really, I can't say you won't be in a position to where you don't have regrets, but as long as you learn what you need to learn and apply it properly, you should be fine.
Okay. And what do you think colleges and pro teams can do to better prepare, athletes for life after sports?
Uh, I don't think it's anything they can really do, because I was thinking about, that before that, obviously this question, only because without making this like a religious thing or anything like that, you're gonna always have people who, the big bad wolf, people gonna, put disguises on, people gonna hide behind masks and so on. I remember a deal that I had where uh, I was traded from the Rams and I ultimately ended up with the Vikings, and a contractor that I had, I ended up firing 2 years prior to, to me being with the Vikings. And 2 years later, we had no problems and no issues. He just wasn't getting the job done. And his girlfriend got pregnant and everything else and so on. And we ended on some, hey, listen, your workload is crazy. I know you just had a baby and everything else, but I need this stuff done. So I'm moving on with another contract and so on. It was amicable, shook hands and everything else. He was squared up. He didn't have no issues, nothing like that. But 2 years later, I had sheriff knocking at my door saying I had a $2.75 million judgment against me because my identity was basically stolen, but they didn't say it like that. I had court cases and everything else and so on. And this contractor fell on hard times and went in there with forged power of attorneys and everything else and so on, and stole, you know, got a loan, got cash, got stuff in my name and everything else and so on. And they had court dates and I never had representative there, obviously, because I didn't know my identity was stolen and he was doing that stuff.
Right.
And
That's crazy.
yeah, but stuff like that, like that guy gets 5 years probation, and I got to and fight for bankruptcy and protect my assets and everything else and so on for some stuff that I didn't know. So I was thinking about it, like I said, like, how does the NFL or anyone else prepare you for that? You know, I remember showing up to bankruptcy court and literally, and I said, hey, they said, how many cars you have? I said, I have 4 cars. How much is your mortgage? I don't have a mortgage. Uh, well, how much do you have in this account and so on and so on. There was just a bunch of questions, and it was like, how many credit cards do you have? I was like I only have one credit card. It has what's the limit on it? 150,000. It's my Penn State alumni credit card. Okay, what's the balance on it? $2,000. The judge looked up and said, "What are you doing in my court?" And I said, "Oh, here you go." My lawyers basically told him, "Here you go. He has a $2.7 million judgment against him and so on. And because someone stole his identity." He said, "I repeat, what are you doing in my court?" And I was just like, they won't let me open the case back up and go back at him and everything else. So my lawyers advised me to file bankruptcy. And he literally said, a retired athlete, Super Bowl winner, and everything else and so on, like did right by his money, doing everything great, a model citizen and everything else and so on. And you didn't do anything wrong. If someone stole your identity, this is how you athletes get taken advantage of and so on. And long story short, for a $2.7 million judgment, I ended up settling everything out for 30 grand. For 30 grand, but messed up my personal credit and different stuff and so on.
Right.
Messed it up for it like that, but shut me down for 5 years for something that I didn't even do, something I had nothing to do with or anything else, and none of that stuff. So imagine me being in that situation, and I look like an athlete who messed up. I look like an athlete who blew his money. I look like an athlete and someone who doesn't have, oh, I was partying, I was this, I was that, and so on. Well, it's kind of crazy, especially since at the time, I was married to the same woman that I was with in college. So it's like, I'm 14 years married. I got, 2 kids, and it's like I'm a family man. I'm not in the club. I don't drink, I don't
Right.
smoke, and so on and so on. But okay, I don't have a
Completely opposite of what people automatically assume from athletes.
yeah, like I'm not fitting the stereotype or the prototype or however you want to label it.
Mhm.
I don't fit that, but I'm still sitting over here about to owe someone $3 million. And oh, by the way, my career is about to be done. And I'm like, so then now I'm in the situation to where it's like, do I want to play just to pay some stuff that I never did off and so on? There's my heart into the game. And it was it was a stressful time. So it's, from my position, it's kind of like all the knowledge in the world that you can have, Warren Buffett and those guys and different people who are smart and intelligent people, those people can still get their identity and stuff stolen too. They just have a lot of resources and so on to to fight for it, and companies and different stuff and so on. But as I said, as a young black athlete, how many companies do I have? What's the situation? Like I got 4 different companies, but if I'm still like so you could understand how bad it was. There was 19 forged documents out of 22. My father's home was quick claimed and signed over to the woman who notarized all the properties, all the transactions. She now owned my dad's home that was paid off, no mortgage. Uh, 3 of my rental properties was now in other people's names and so on. Like, it was torture. And the only thing that ended up helping me to a point was, for when I was able to go back at them, I was able to say, well, how is it the same notary woman, and how does she, the woman who notarized my stuff, notarize this stuff, how is she on as the owner of my properties? You can't notarize my stuff and now own my properties that I didn't sell to you. Where's the deeds and where's all this other stuff and so on? So that ended up helping me, but it didn't help me
Right.
to only where that woman, she only got 2 years probation. The other gentleman who stole my identity got 5 years probation. Oh, okay, there's a judgment. So if he hits the lotto or so on, he's going to pay me or so on and so on. But what's the chances of all that stuff happen? So as I
Very
said,
true.
life is a little bit tricky, but I don't want to say it like like the NFL doesn't care, but people are going to the extremes and everything else and so on, especially now that a lot of this stuff is becoming digital. when's the last time most people had cash in their pocket and everything else and so on? So it's just a lot of stuff that's going on to where I really don't think that there's I don't really think there's a situation where you can be protected. They can give you all the knowledge you want, but as I said, I had 2 years of court situation going up, and because I didn't know about it, I've never sent one lawyer or anything on my behalf.
Yeah. And you have a lot of experience, being the first round pick,
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl champion, and then having a long playing career, and then also dealing with a lot of different situations that can arise, being a pro player, being targeted, fraud, things of that nature. So there are players out there that will listen to you. And what would you say, or any type of advice? Doesn't have to be real estate, money, anything like that. What advice would you give someone because obviously right now we're in the process of, the combine is this week. Then there's going to be obviously the draft, the NBA draft. So as a seasoned, NFL vet, what advice would you give someone who's going to be going pro soon? Any life advice?
Life comes fast, man. It comes fast, and the situation is we feel that I can't speak for everyone, but I would like to say we feel that we'll be young forever. We feel as if we can't, you have like players who, without pumping names, I know we all know who I'm talking about, like the Vegas player who was driving drunk that night and killed that woman and the dog and so on, between multiple situations that's going on where, life can be gone like that. So understanding that it's enjoying the moment. It's enjoying the moment. It's not living for the moment. It's literally enjoying the moment, but not living for the moment. Understand that moment is going to pass. So in this situation, when I went into the NFL, I can't tell you, like I said, without making this a religious thing, I can't tell you, but I knew that my career wasn't going to finish without me being a Super Bowl winner. I just felt that. I just felt based off the hard work that I was putting in, my commitment to the game and so on. I don't care about you don't make a Pro Bowl, you don't get recognition from fans and different stuff like that. I just knew and felt in my heart that I was a champion. And I knew that the NFL, from the time that I've learned about the NFL, meant not for long. I can't get up right now and go, walking around listen, if I was to go do something with my son right now, I'm hurt for like a week and a half after, and I could get in my stance and take off 5 times, and my body will feel like I got hit by a car for the next 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's enjoying the moment, really focusing on the legacy. We're in a world now, and I'm not attacking this younger generation. We're in a world of instant gratification. We're in a world of, just fun. What we're doing to have fun and everything else and so on, and not thinking, like when I played, I wanted to make sure my kids was okay. I wanted to make sure that I never went back to the hood and have to live there. Because as men, we have a lot of pressure right now. If I don't make it, I'm the failed NFL player. Even though I'm done with ball right now, and I've been done for 10 years now. If I lose everything or whatever, and you have people praying on that, if I lose everything right now, I knew he'll be back. He's back in the hood. He's this, he's doing that. Oh, I knew he was going to mess up. I knew it was this, so on. So it becomes about cherishing the moment, living in the moment, but knowing that the moment's going to pass. So work hard, have a big plan, have a plan, like we don't, everyone can't think about it. Just so we could be clear, if we go into college right now in terms of football, we can't go in right now, play 1 year and turn pro. You have to put in work for at least 3 years. So if you go pro, why would you be thinking just about that 1 year? Think about who you're going to develop into over the next 5 years. Think about what your plan will be if you get cut. And then it's a lot of stuff it's a lot of stuff that they don't tell us. You know, like think about this. You know, pride gets in the way. Like something that I will say right now that no one ever tells. Do you know that every NFL player, when the off season comes, every NFL player can apply for unemployment? You know
No,
that?
that I didn't know.
Like think about it. We only get paid during the season.
True.
You get what I'm saying? So if we only get paid from September to December, I don't care what that dollar amount is. In the off season, as an NFL player, you think I'm going to go down for public assistance and government food stamps or different stuff? You think I'm gonna put in for unemployment or anything like that? For example, in college, summertime and everything else and so on. Even as a student, we're able to apply for food stamps and different stuff and so on.
That I didn't know.
Yeah, we good. We recording. We good. Yeah,
We're
like
good.
like, but those are the things that I've learned outside of ball. Once ball was over, you get what I'm saying. So it's kind of like, why would I want to like why don't we know that? You know what I'm saying? Because here's what the thing is. Imagine, like, watch this go. Like I said, and saying cherish certain things. Imagine me sitting over there playing for the Rams. The doctors tell the coaches that I have cardiomyopathy, and no one ever tells me. And then I leave and I continue my career and I finish winning the Super Bowl and everything else and so on. And then I go, I'm a free agent, but my heart goes into AFib. So imagine that. Now watch. Now fast forward years later, 10 years later that I've been retired. I could sit on the phone with you and talk to you, but no one would know I had over 11 heart surgeries already before I was 40 years old. No one would know I had an ablation done on my heart. You get what I'm saying? And then people will ask, like, oh, I don't
Yeah.
see Jimmy around. I don't see this and so on and so on. This doesn't happen, everything else and so on. So, like I said, what happens? It goes like that. And it all be because of the game. You get what I'm saying? It be because of the game. But then, you start looking into things, you start saying, wow, hold up. You guys knew this since then. No one said anything to me. How do I feel? You understand what I'm saying? So as I keep saying, it just becomes enjoy the stuff now because, man, if I would have known that, like I said, I don't want to jump around, but look at the Tua situation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, look at the Tua
Yeah.
situation. Like, it's not just about now. It's not just about
Yeah.
now. What's going to happen? You think they really like paying money right now for CTE? You got 3 concussions in one season. You get what I'm saying? Like, think about it so we could be clear.
Well, and I think that plays into why a lot of guys are retiring a lot earlier. You got
Well,
guys leaving in their peak.
think
You
about
know.
you got Hamlin, the one who passed out and had
Yeah.
his heart stop. He's not a vested player. What is he going to do? He doesn't qualify for his pension.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? He's not vested.
Right.
He's not even 3
Uh-huh.
years in. He doesn't qualify. And then you got to play in the NFL for at least 3 years to become a vested
Right.
player and everything else and so on. Who's going to cover his medical and everything else and so on? That's for the rest of his life. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So I don't know too much about his background and everything else so on. So I don't know if he has his college degree. I don't know what the
Yeah.
situation is. Oh, by the way, you don't understand. Like, I could be sitting over here with you right now, and if my heart starts pumping a certain way and everything else, so on, I gotta chill. I gotta adjust my bed. I gotta lay down. I gotta do certain things. I take, carvedazole and different stuff and so on that old people take. There's
Right.
Eliquis and stuff like that, blood thinners and so on. Wear compression socks for my legs and different stuff and so on. Like, it becomes this whole thing that's bigger than this. That's bigger than life. So it's really not just about now. With that being said, I'm not just speaking in terms of illnesses and stuff like that. I'm speaking in terms of the moment being gone when you least expect it.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the moment being gone when you least expect it. We've all witnessed watching this player, whether you've seen it live or whether you see it on recording, fall out after making a tackle and had to be revived on the field, had to fight for his life in the hospital and everything else and so on. I thank God that he pulled through and so on. But here's what I'm saying. In 5 years, what complications would he have to deal with? In 10 years, what complications would he have to deal with? Oh, by the way, guess what? He's in his 20s right now with a heart condition. Can we guarantee you that this man is going to get to his 70s? Can we guarantee you that he's going to be able to build a family? You get what I'm saying?
Oh, you
Can we guarantee you that, like, we don't know what stress would do on his heart? And I'm not saying it, like I said, I'm not making it about religion or race, but the stress that you have to do now, like, watch how this go. Like, oh yeah, we can say, oh, he could write a book now, he can do this, he could talk about this and everything else, and so on and so on. But he still got to work, and he still got to earn a living, and so on. Can he not be stressed out? Can he not have certain things and so on? I can tell you this right now. I can talk even after ablations and everything else and so on. If I go a certain amount of time, I could feel myself get lightheaded and everything else and so on. So how will he handle those situations when you're not yourself, when you're not feeling like it's just a lot to go through, and we do it for the sake of cash. We do it for the sake of of our livelihood and so on. We do it in terms of injuries and that we are willing to to deal with just to play the game. Like, oh, Jimmy, he's educated and everything else and so on. Like, wait, like, look at how this go. I got this hand that's right here like this, but I'm right hand dominant. But look, all my fingers the same length. You get what I'm saying? Oh, that's right, because I broke my hand. I got a plate. I mean, 2 pins in here and everything else and so on. You get what I'm saying? So look, my dominant hand. Look, I can't do certain things with. Oh, so none of that plays a part. Not the knee surgery, not broken jaw, being wired down for 8 weeks. I got a plate and 5 screws in my thumb, so on. You can see the huge gash and so on. It ain't coming out. I got a screw on my fifth metatarsal on my foot and everything else and so on. It's raining right now. I feel every bit and so on. And I'm never going to be under 300 pounds, 6'5". I'm never going to be under 300 pounds.
I'm gonna be honest. I speak to a lot of players that say that they have lingering injuries well after their playing days.
Oh, man.
And actually, speaking and kind of transitioning earlier, we touched upon NILs.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that affects the college landscape? We're talking about money and players actually now having opportunities to make money in college. How do you think that will affect the college players and the sports landscape going forward?
Is obviously there's pros and cons with everything. I think the pros of it is everyone's not going to make it pro. And a lot of people sustain injuries and so on while being in college and will never turn pro. So, for example, if we was having this same discussion about Hamlin in college and he actually passed out on the field, or like our boy Adam Taliaferro, who was paralyzed and so on, think about his medical bills and different stuff and so on, and what he has to deal with for the rest of his life. If there's, I don't agree with this person get millions and different stuff and so on, but I think something should be in place to help these athletes, especially if they go into regular life in the regular work world, not become a professional athlete. You understand? So it starts being like, yo, what if I'm in college and I tear my ACL a couple of times or whatever the case would be, or I don't get the chance to go pro because I'm injury prone or whatever the case would be and so on. Who helps me in my everyday life after? You understand? So that plays a part. So there's a pro if there's some kind of fund in place and so on, and it could be an age thing. Like, hey, you know what? We're gonna put 25,000 in this account. It can't get touched to this age. You can add to it and so on. Kind of like a life insurance situation or a medical insurance thing or so on. You can't take it out unless you submit medical bills or something along those lines and so on. So I think that can be a pro if it's something like that. The cons is I think it makes the athletes I can't say here's what it is. I think what ends up happening is it lowers our graduation rates. We're giving these athletes money, and like I said, I know I made Penn State millions, and I didn't see no millions. You know what I'm saying? I think I made enough for my son to earn the full scholarship. Like, like let's go. You understand? So from my position,
Yeah.
it's kind of like in terms of ticket sales, in terms of TV, in terms of the money that comes in, obviously jersey sales and stuff like that. When I was there, we didn't see any of that. You understand? And then now I feel that there was people paying players and different stuff and so on. And right now it's just more in the forefront of saying, hey, and so on, because everyone's not getting paid. Everyone's not going to get an X amount of dollars. But as I say, what's happening to these kids? Because the players who earn the NIL money, the high dollar NIL money, is usually leaving going pro early, which means that they're getting this money to go to college, to get there, to use college as a platform for whatever amount of times that they can do, and then turning around and now turning pro to have a long or short, in most situations, short career. And they don't have the education, they don't have anything to fall back on. So was that extra, let's just say $1 million that you got when you were 17, 18 years old, was it worth it? Like, was it worth it? Was it worth it when you could have went to Stanford and so on and got your college degree and so on, and you're going to make $1 million, or Harvard, or Yale, or Penn State? You understand what I'm saying? Was it worth it in terms of you going in there and you actually meeting people and so on? Like, this is Penn State family that we have, so Wicked wasn't on the football team. You understand? But you understand, we still on the phone together and different stuff and so on, because, it still becomes a Penn State family. You get what I'm saying? And obviously, and I'm speaking just on Penn State, but if I was in and out, what's the situation? You get what I'm saying? Like, and here's what the situation is. Like I keep saying, I say this, obviously it's not my position to speak on anyone else's child or so on. But for me, I think it benefits Bronny James to actually go to college. For me, if it's up to me, I understand playing with your dad and what it could look like and everything else and so on and so on. But for me, dad is a billionaire. When dad passed or a situation goes down, I still got to keep the legacy going. So why would I not go to college and learn everything that I could learn and everything else and so on, instead of just jumping to the pros and adding to the money, but not adding here to keep it going and so on, because eventually it's going to stop. Eventually someone's not going to draft a James kid. Like, imagine this same situation. Okay, Bronny goes, whatever the case may be, and so on. Like, I got it. So what, we gonna wait for his kid to come for him to go? What are we gonna do? Like, okay, so I guess next is gonna be Bryce. And then next, like I said, it's not me knocking and so on, but I love it. I love that they're doing it. I love James. I think they're awesome people and everything else and so on. But I'm just speaking in terms of, when does it stop? Because I didn't play football because I wanted my son to play football, because I want his son to play football and so on. I played football because it was the only way that I could afford to get out of college. To go to college. And literally, when I was in the middle of Yonkers in the hood, my high school coach was like, "You're a big kid. You should be on my football field." And I was like, "Man, I ain't playing no football." And he was like, "This is your ticket out the hood." And the next day I was playing football. You get what I'm saying? Because I don't understand. I didn't know any better. So kids just have to, young people, they just have to understand that. So I think the NIL is hurting, because it's hurting, but it's also helping. It's hurting, but I don't see why, there's a certain way to do it. Like, so for example, if I'm in college and I'm like, why we can't do it like a salary wage? Why we can't do it, if I'm a starter, I can get X amount of dollars?
Right.
Why we can't do it? Oh, I'm a starter, I did this and so on and so on. Why we can't do it in terms of workout bonuses and everything else and so on? Why we can't do it in terms of different stuff? So, like, for example, just simple. What if I was making $2,000 a game or so on because I'm a starter? What's second and third string? Now I don't want it to create competition to where someone start doing some crazy stuff. Let me hurt the guy in front of me and everything else and so on. But I think it's going to promote competition and everything else, right?
Maybe, but I think that maybe the pushback may be in regards to that is, like, the bigger programs can pay. If they do a salary structure, a lot of the bigger programs, the Penn States, the Alabamas, the Georgias, they can pay their starting players a certain amount, the second strings a certain amount. But if you're a smaller program, even though they're both in the Big Ten, who generates more money, Penn State or Rutgers? Now,
But
Rutgers, even though they're still in the Big Ten, can Rutgers pay their players what Penn State or Ohio State or Michigan
yes, because
pay their players?
yes, because here's what the thing is: Big Ten, SEC, everything else, and so on. Instead of paying NIL millions of dollars, here's this and so on and so on. Create a budget, create a pot to pay X amount of people what you need to pay them. You get what I'm saying? So now it's a Big Ten situation. It's a so on and so on. But then now you don't want, hey, if I go to the Big Ten, I get $5,000 a game as a starter. Versus if I go to the SEC or so on, I only get $3,500 or so on and so on. So keep it even through college football. So don't make it where this situation, because it's the same thing that you just said. But watch how this go. Who has the most money to pay NILs? Is it the Ohio States, the Penn States, the Rutgers, or the Marylands? You understand what I'm saying? It's still the same thing. Listen, Maryland doesn't have X amount of million to get the number one quarterback in the nation right now.
That's definitely the case, man. But I definitely appreciate you taking the time. I'm looking at the clock, and Grizz, we go way back, and I appreciate you taking the time, man. I knew you had a lot of knowledge. I'm like, let me touch base with you, because I know that you could impart, just being this drafted high, playing the league, winning the chip, and also, being close to my heart, being in real estate, understanding that aspect too, I think is just important for people out there, especially the young guys, to hear someone like yourself speak. And, I definitely appreciate you taking the time.
Anytime, man.